Welcome to Conversations with Big Rich. This is an interview-style podcast. Those interviews are all involved in the off-road industry. Being involved, like all of my guests are, is a lifestyle, not just a job. I talk to competitive teams, racers, rock crawlers, business owners, employees, media, and private park owners, men and women who have found their way into this exciting and addictive lifestyle. We discuss their personal history, struggles, successes, and reboots. We dive into what drives them to stay active in off-road. We all hope to shed some light on how to find a path into this world we live and love and call off-road.
Whether you're crawling the Red Rocks of Moab or hauling your toys to the trail, Maxxis has the tires you can trust for performance and durability. 4 wheels or 2. Maxxis tires are the choice of champions because they know that whether for work or play, for fun or competition, Maxxis tires deliver. Choose Maxxis. Tread victoriously.
Have you seen 4Low magazine yet? 4Low magazine is a high-quality, well-written, four-wheel drive focused magazine for the enthusiast market. If you still love the idea of a printed magazine, something to save and read at any time, 4Low is the magazine for you. 4Low cannot be found in stores, but you can have it delivered to your home or place of business. Visit 4lowmagazine.com to order your subscription today. On today's episode of Conversations with Big Rich, we have Shawn Rants. Shawn, I can't remember the first time I actually met Shawn. It may have been with Dean Bullock or Jeff Rector, Mitch Funk, maybe in Moab before racing. But Shawn races the 4500 class at Ultra 4 and King of the Hammers, and he raced with us in Dirt Riot. He was also the head of my pit crew, as I called it. Every time we'd come to, one of the Dirt Riot races or into Farmington, Shawn and his guys were always there to make sure that the We Rock Jeep was ready for battle. So, Shawn, thank you so much for everything you've done, and I want to say thank you for coming on and and talking with us.
Well, yeah, it's a honor to have a conversation with Big Rich. I believe we met in 11. I can't remember. It was at Moab, but. And then because you started the Dirt Riot in 11 or 12?
I think it was 11. I believe it was 11, but it may have been. We did a test event, and then we started a full season.
Yeah, and I didn't race the first season. I was there with Mitch Funk, but then after that, I did a number of seasons.
Great.
And it was some of the most enjoyable times we had in racing.
Well, I sure enjoyed it. I really loved all the racers. I loved setting up the race courses and going into all the parks and everything. But that's another story. So yeah. Let's start off the beginning by asking you where were you born and raised?
I was born in California. By chance, and then I was only 2 and moved to Grand Junction, Colorado, and lived there. I lived in Colorado till my father passed away in 75, and then I moved to Utah, and then I've been in Wyoming, and then now in New Mexico.
Okay, and you, we'll get to what you do for work and everything, but where did you spend most of the time growing up? Those informative years, say, up till the beginning of high school?
That would have been in Colorado, in Grand Junction, and then up around Eagle, Colorado.
Okay. And what was it like there at that time? I know you're not as old as I am, or we're really close, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to say it because most people in my family don't live this long. I'm 62.
62. Okay. Yeah, you're a little younger than me.
Right.
I grew up in the south of San Francisco in the Bay Area, so I wasn't rural. Grand Junction was pretty rural at that time.
It was a very small town, and then we moved to a farm up. Dad was a farmer. We lived in town in Grand Junction early on, and then we lived on the farm up in Colorado when he passed away. But it was we lived at 9,000 feet, and it was an hour and a half drive to school and an hour and a half home, and it was fun times. It was enjoyable.
Was that hour and a half on a bus?
On a school bus, yes.
Wow.
And if we got 4 feet of snow, the bus came to us with chains on it, and we went no matter what. There was no snow days. It could be 3-4 feet, and you still went.
Right, not like nowadays.
Right, if it gets a skiff and gets cold, they cancel.
Yeah, that's it's kind of a shame, but it's the way life is nowadays.
It is.
So, what did you do? I mean, you were on the farm, and that was an hour and a half to school, but you said you lived down in the valley first, or what I'd call the valley, and then did you commute? Did your dad commute up to the farm at that time, or?
No, he worked in town in Grand Junction.
Okay.
Until the time we moved to go. He was born and raised on a farm, went to the military, came out, and then tried a city life, and then it didn't work out, so he'd rather go back to the farming.
That makes sense. And so at what age did you move up to the farm then?
I was 11.
11, okay. So you had a lot of farm duties then growing up.
Yeah, we had to we had chickens and pigs and all kinds of stuff to do, and then we grew the garden in the summer. That took all our time, and then in the winter when it became calving season, the farm ranch we worked on had 1,500 head of cows, and he taught me how to take care of cows and pull calves and do all the not so happy stuff.
Right. Kind of like Yellowstone.
Yeah, pretty much. we didn't have a train station, but we had a lot of the rest of it.
There you go. So then, you got to drive farm equipment. Did you have a motorcycle or bicycles or?
I didn't. When we were on the farm, it was pretty much work. If you weren't at school or whatever, and then of course all summer, it was just they always had plenty to do. So
right.
At that time, we were really poor, didn't have a whole lot, so we didn't have a whole lot. We actually got to the point, I remember for the longest time, you'd go to town once a month and get groceries, and the rest of the time you had to make it with whatever you had.
Wow. Okay. That's that can be a rough life, but it can be motivating as well.
It's very fulfilling because at the end of the day, you're tired and you've actually accomplished some tasks.
Right. And so then what was school like for you? Was it a relief to get off of the farm there for a while?
It was, because we'd catch the bus around 6:00, 6:30 in the morning, depending on the snow day, and get home around 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. And I really longed for the education and to be a little more social, because living on the farm, you didn't have to get to see a lot of people, but to be a little bit social. But I guess that's why I'm not the greatest of social as now. But I looked forward to school at that time.
Well, I'd say everybody that has met you thinks you're pretty social and nice guy. I mean, you're not the guy that sees somebody standing there or a crowd, and you're going to go over and shake everybody's hand and introduce yourself. But, you're very accommodating.
Yeah, it is. And I really like people. I'm just a bit shy.
Right.
It's, I'm approachable, but I don't approach a lot, I guess.
Right. So then through high school, still on the farm?
No, I was 15 when my father passed away.
Okay.
And I moved to Utah with some other family and lived with my aunt and uncle in Vernal, Utah, where, you've had a couple races over there, but I lived in Vernal all through high school, and that's where I met my first wife, had 4 kids there, and I really enjoyed the area.
Okay, and is that I know that one of your friends, Mitch Funk, lives in that area. Did you meet him at that time, or was that
No,
later on?
I actually met Mitch in Moab through some friends of ours and my kids, but I met Mitch Funk in Moab and started wheeling with him there. And that would have been 2007, somewhere 2008.
Okay, you're in after informative years. Your high school years. You were there in Vernal. That's not as big as like Grand Junction,
No, Vernal's is well, especially in the 70s, was a very small town.
right? So then, just like one high school, and everybody knew each other, and
Yep, that was the commonality of it. That it was small enough that everybody. I think our graduating class was less than 100.
okay, yeah, that's small, especially for an area that with that religious base where it's all about having kids.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I while I was in high school, um, I think I was finished the 10th grade and met a friend and I started doing circle tracks, helping a friend take care of a Camaro on circle tracks. That's what got me started there, in motorsports.
Okay, and were you able to drive at that point
No,
through high
you
school,
know,
or
no, I was just a pit crew,
okay?
and a friend of mine, Marvin, he was the driver.
And high school, was it easy? Was it difficult?
It was, of course, it was difficult because right after my father passed away, your attitudes change and you're mad at the world, and the teachers weren't too accommodating. They like anything. They didn't have a lot of time, so my last couple of years of high school was pretty tough. Yeah.
So you were into the motorsports with helping your friend with a pit crew as a pit crew.
Yeah.
How long did you do that for?
I probably helped him for probably just the 3 years, through the 11th, 12th grade of high school, and then 1 year after. He kept racing, and then once I had children and I moved, we kind of just drifted apart and didn't help anymore.
Okay, and I know that you work in the oil and gas industry now. Did you? Vernal's real big for that. I don't know if it was at the time. Is that where you got started in that?
It was where I got started, but it was later years because since I had a number of years on the farm right after my father passed, then I worked on the farm, different farms there, and I started doing the oil field. I think about the time my oldest son was born, around 80, 81.
Okay, and then how long were you married before you had children?
Only a year and a half. We discussed it and wanted to have our kids early enough that we could have a later life.
Right. And what was it like raising your kids? I know three, four of
Well,
them.
I have three sons, then a daughter, and then I had my youngest later, but it was a good challenge. I'm happy that it happened, and it makes you a whole different person.
It does. It does. What were your challenges as a young father?
It was um, trying to do things different. When you grow up and your father is one way, and then you didn't agree with some of it, and then you try to raise your children different, but then a lot of times you end up drifting back to the original, the way you were raised, that you would have some knowledge of. But it was tough because I had three boys and then a girl, and then one more boy later. But um, yeah, it was a challenge. Any raising children, and I really don't envy the people who have to raise children in today's age. It was a lot different back then.
Yeah, I agree. We had a lot more freedoms, I think, or less concerns about our safety.
Yeah,
If something was going to happen, it was because we were dumb and did something, not somebody
which,
doing something to us.
which was quite often, like like when I grew up, we would go out on a weekend or in the summer, we would get out of the house and be gone for 8, 10, 12 hours. Mom and dad probably didn't know where we were, but they knew we were okay unless one of us came home, because I have two brothers and one sister. But one of us would come back and tell if something bad happened, but otherwise it was just an all day deal. And so when I was raising my kids, I kept a little more eye on them, I think, but I encouraged them to be outside all the time.
Right. I know that when I was a young father, it was right around the time that the Nintendos or whatever, came out,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
everybody got so involved in that. And,
Yeah.
as a family, of course, we went and bought one. And
Yeah.
I think
Yep.
after about 3 weeks or something, I put it back in the box and hid it.
Yeah. My boys would play with it, but then they still did everything outside.
And what were the kind of things that you did with them as they were
Well,
growing up?
we did a bit of fishing. I'm not a big fisherman, but we did fish a little bit, and then we went camping a lot. We loved just being in the mountains, and because I didn't buy my first Jeep until 2005. All I had was a pickup and a camper, and we would just go up in the mountain and walk around and see everything.
Let me
And
guess,
then,
it was a Ford pickup?
yeah, everything's been Ford. And then my oldest son was one when I started doing the mud drag racing, and so then we did a lot of that through the years.
Okay, well, talk about that. How'd you get involved? How did that happen?
I really don't know. I probably went and saw one, and like any young man that just thinks I can do that, and then you get out there and you can't do that unless you put a lot more effort in it than what you believe. And I started that in, I think, '82, and then it just went from there. Our stock pickup, and then it went from there, and then got into the high horsepower later.
And besides the mud trucks, what else did you get involved with racing?
I've helped people do drag racing, top alcohol drag racing, and altered drag racing. I was a crew chief on a altered, and I was just just one of the crew members on a top alcohol dragster. And then and then when I quit mud racing, I got into helping a friend of mine do top Eliminator Sand Drags, and that was, that's high horsepower, 3,000 horsepower, trying to go 300 feet in under 2.9 seconds was our goal. And it's just been one. I have to have some high horsepower to do.
That need for speed.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's and you gotta do it while you can, because one of these days it's not going to keep going. So
Yeah, I agree. I grew up in a drag racing family. My dad drag raced. He was a car builder. I mean, he had street rods and stuff like that back in the 50s, and but in the 60s, early 60s, him and his buddy ran a car, and I remember growing up around that, being in the shop, being young, and they had a shop that was like right off an alley off of the main street in our town, and it snowed one time, and it was on a day they were supposed to go drag racing, and instead they took the car and did launches up and down the main street, where all the shopping, all the small shops and all the restaurants and all that kind of stuff were in the snow. And that's the one thing I remember growing up about the drag car.
and I've never really cared for going around in a circle. I tried it a little bit in the '90s, but my oldest son, we did circle track racing with him in the '90s, and it's just all all part of it.
And I know let's go down through the age group on who's who. Who's the oldest?
The oldest one's John,
Okay.
and then the second one is Shawn Jr., and then Kevin, which has been my co-driver from the start, and then Amy, my only daughter, of course, and then I have Lee, my youngest son, and then Dawn, my current wife. She has one daughter, Samantha.
Okay. Awesome. I wasn't sure of, who was the oldest of the three boys that I'm very familiar with, but
Right.
I've never asked, so it's good to know.
Yeah.
So then you're doing the mud racing. You're working at that time. Were you working on the farms?
No, when I started mud racing, I was that was about the time I started in the oil field in Vernal.
Okay, and what did you do in the oil fields?
I was just a roustabout, which was a guy who cut and threaded pipe, cleaned up oil, shoveled dirt. And just you have to start at the bottom and work your way up.
Right, and that has been a pretty good career for you, has it not?
It has. I got into equipment maintenance, taking care of large equipment like scrapers and cats and things like that, and then I got into compression, which is what it's called now when it's natural gas compression. We just we gather gas out of the wells and compress it and clean it and ship it on. And I've been with the company I'm at now for 26 years.
Wow, congratulations. That's a stretch.
That is a milestone every year.
Yeah, I mean that's not real common anymore.
No.
I know that I never had a job that lasted more than 5 years until I became an off-road event promoter.
Right, until you worked for yourself.
Yep. And even some of those that I had that only lasted less than 5 years were businesses that I ran myself, my own companies.
Oh.
It was just, I always got bored, you might say, I think is what it
Right.
was. I just needed something and I could never find out what it was that I needed until I found rock crawling. Imagine that.
Right. And the challenge that I have at the work that I do now, we work on engines that cost, just the bare engine is over $2 million, and so the what it takes to maintain them is definitely never ended being a challenge.
I can imagine $2 million on an engine. Wow.
Yeah, just that's just the basic engine, and then by the time you add all what it takes to make a package that will run a compressor, you're getting in the $5 to $5.5 million range, and we have 100 and some of those. So
really,
yeah.
So is that like one engine per plant then?
Well, it's one engine, and it'd be just like a compressor in your shop.
Okay.
You've got an electric motor and a compressor and a tank. Well, we have the engine, which is natural gas fired, and then the compressor, which compresses natural gas to ship it down the pipeline. And each one of those, a compressor in your shop will cost around $2,000. These are around $5 million. And like I say, we have well over 100 of them.
Wow, that's interesting. So as you started to have the kids, where were you living when the kids came along?
We were in Vernal because my wife and I graduated from high school together, but we didn't know each other at all. We met through some friends later, and so we got married a year and a half after high school, and another year after that, almost year and a half, we started having kids, and it was all in Vernal.
So you had a graduating class of less than 100, or right
Yep.
around 100, and
Yep.
You didn't know her?
I did not, because at that time, I was I would get out of school and go to work on the farm, get up in the morning, go to work on the farm, and make it to school. So I wasn't at the social functions and everything that goes through high school. So it was work and school, and
Okay.
Yeah.
I get it. Yep. And then you said after Vernal, you've been to a few other places. You want to go
Yeah, we
through those?
actually, well, after Vernal, I got a job offer in Grand Junction, and we went to Grand Junction for a little over 2 years, and I ran a water truck business. Didn't run the business. I ran the maintenance shop, repairing all of their water trucks, and then that was in 1990, and then I moved to Wyoming.
Where the wind
For,
always blows.
yeah, the wind never stops, and it's always cold.
Yes.
We used to always say that we would go inner tubing or sledding on the 4th of July. That was we'd go up in the mountains and go sledding on the snow. So it's a whole different world up there. You have to appreciate it.
Yes. So
And
then you were in Wyoming for how long?
for 2 years,
For 2 years. Okay.
from 92 to 94. And then in 94, I moved here to Aztec, New Mexico.
And was that chasing a job?
Yep. It was always chasing a job. Cause back in the 90s, the oil field had crashed, everything had crashed, and you just got work wherever you could. And so we just chased work for a number of years.
Okay. And that's where, let's see, the age of your kids. So that's
My youngest son was born when we were in Wyoming.
okay. So Lee was
That
born
was-
there,
Yeah.
or not Lee? Yeah.
Yeah, Lee was born there. Yes.
And then, so what was it? What was it like raising kids in Farmington or Aztec? I mean, that's all kind of the same.
Yeah,
General
it's all
area.
the same. It's a quiet community. It's they're everybody's real friendly. It's a nice place to live, and the schools were good.
Okay. And that's where you've been with that company now for 26
Yes.
years?
Yep. I started in summer of '96 and been here ever since.
Wow.
And my wife passed away in '99, and so then I raised from then till 6 years ago. From then till 6 years ago, all I did was have a little fun. That's when I started. Well, I was allowed to raise my children on my own.
Right.
Yeah, I decided that there was no sense looking for another spouse, so I just took care of my kids.
I commend you on that.
It was very enjoyable, but I can't say it was easy.
Well, even when you have a partner to help with that raising, it's not easy.
Right.
So
Yep.
doing it on your own and then trying to be the breadwinner as well, I can imagine you had your hands full because I know your kids.
Yeah, they're all good kids, and
They are.
it like I say, it was definitely an adventure.
And did your kids get involved in like sports or anything, or were they working at a young age?
They all played football, basketball, baseball. Baseball was a big thing because I liked baseball and they did too. So I coached what I could. I helped coach pretty much all of the boys, and then my daughter, she did volleyball and soccer, and yeah, we had a lot of sports going on.
Well, good. That's awesome. You said you got into your first Jeep when was it again?
2005.
2005. Okay, that's why I wrote that down.
Yep.
And
I
go ahead.
started building it into just a rock crawler. It's my scrambler that I raced later, and I just started building it into a rock crawler, and that's when I met up with Mitch Funk and some of the other guys.
Did you get involved with the local clubs down there?
I didn't at that time. I didn't know anything about it. I got involved with the National Scrambler Association and met up with them in Moab in 2006, and I've been a member ever since, but not the local club till later.
Okay. And you met Mitch, and then after Mitch, was it Dean and Jeff, or what was that all together?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, Mitch and Jeff and Dean and all of those guys. Because in 2011 was the first time I went to see an off-road race at King of the Hammers,
okay.
and I went down and helped Jeff and some other friends, and it went from there.
And then you decided, okay, that's going fast, and I've got to try it.
Yeah, that's the thing. 2012 was the first EMC. They decided, Dave and his people decided they were going to do a lower class, and I knew, and I still wouldn't have the money to race in the upper class, but I thought I could race in that lower class with what I had, because it was just a bring your trail rig, put a bunch of safety equipment in it. Basically, my scrambler at the time had everything except for fire extinguishers, fuel cell, and a little bit of stuff like that. And so it was pretty easy to get started.
And you picked the 4500 class because of that, because it was modified enough?
Yeah, it was too modified for the stock class. So I picked the 4500.
And what did you think that first 4500 race when you went out there, and cars that were supposedly built to the class were... I know that racing is all about, if you're not cheating, you're not winning. And I don't want to say anybody cheated, but man, there was some really pushing of the gray areas.
Yeah, there was riding the fringe, and but we went down there just to have fun. That was the thing about when we got started, and it's still nothing but fun for us anyway. But when we went the first time, we were running. We were very capable with some of the rigs that were there, and and I don't know if you know the story behind me ever racing down there.
No.
It's all Mitch Funk's fault, because they started that class, and he called me up one afternoon, and we had been in Moab racing or playing, and he called me up and he says, "What do you think about racing King of the Hammers?" And I said, "I don't know, I got to take a little bit of work to get it going and this and that." And he tells me at that time, he goes, "Well, I went and paid your entry fee today, so you have to go." And so that's how I got entered into the very first one. So that afternoon when I got off the phone, I went on, found the website, found out how to do it, and I entered him. At that time, you just put your name in and paid the money. And so he entered me, and I entered him out of trying to get back at him. So the start of that was my whole career at Ultra 4 started with Mitch Funk paying and telling me I was going.
I love that. And how did you do that first year down there?
I believe I got fourth or fifth, because I was running really good, and of course I hit a boulder that was out in the middle of nowhere, hiding behind one of those bushes, and broke the steering box off. And that was when we started that we're going to complete our race no matter what. Kevin walked a mile, and we didn't have a steering box, but Jeff Rector did. So Kevin walked a mile, got Jeff Rector's spare steering box. We put it on, and we did finish the race.
Very good. No time limit then?
Yeah, there was still the time limit, but we still had plenty of time.
Okay. And how is your completion record at KOH been?
There's been 11 EMCs, and we've been in all of them. And I believe one year I finished after time, but Dave gave me the completion because it was a really horrendous course for us. And so I believe I finished 9 out of the 11.
9 out of 11. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that would love to have that kind of a record.
Yeah, we're very proud of ourselves because, being all home built. So,
Yeah, you guys aren't like no factory, no big sponsors. Um,
you know,
it comes out of your garage.
yeah, it comes out of our pockets and our time and even the travel and everything. Yeah, it's all us.
Was Kevin your first navigator, co-pilot?
Yeah, he was the navigator all the way up until this last KOH, and then his life he had some other things he wanted to do. So this year, he did KOH, and then the rest of the season, he's been just helping out.
Okay. And then was it John that stepped in?
No, actually, my engine builder, his name's Chuck Richardson from RPM Automotive.
Okay.
He he stepped in, and because we didn't know, like if John could race or come with us, you don't know when they can come, and Chuck signed on for the whole year.
Okay. Perfect. Understood. Okay. And so what is let's talk about your current wife and how you met her.
I met her through a party of some people that raced Ultra 4
Oh, really?
here
Okay.
here in Farmington, and I was invited to a party, and she was there, and we were both single, of course, and it just happened to work out, and we've been married for just a little over 6 years,
And I'm surprised with the way she cooks that you didn't gain like twice your normal weight.
it's tough. I have to leave some on the plate every day because she loves to cook and she's very good at it, and she definitely knows how to feed people.
Yes, that she does. She's a good caretaker too. I mean, she seems to be just all on, all in.
Yeah, she's a fireball. I can't keep up with her.
So, how long did you guys know each other before you decided to tie the knot?
Almost 2 years, right at 2 years.
And
No, actually over 2 years. Yeah.
and was it an easy choice for you to make to get married again?
It wasn't because I'd been single for over 15 years, and it wasn't easy, but she made it easy.
That's good to hear. That's awesome. So then your racing career, the mud races, that again, it's not making, left-hand turns the whole time, like you said, making laps. The and then you've done the rock racing, Ultra 4. Was there any other racing that you were driving at that time, or any other?
When we were doing the sand drag racing,
Yeah.
the the I don't know how to put it, the stress that's on you during the sand racing, it's pretty tough, to go 150 miles an hour at 2.9 seconds, and so I drove about half the time with the sand dragster.
Oh, okay. And what was that like sitting on?
Going from 0 to 150 in under 3 seconds is one of the greatest feelings, because in mud racing we would go up to 200, well, about 200 feet in under 2 seconds, and then in sand drags we would go. We were limited. Our class was 2.95 breakout, and we would go 295 to 3 seconds in 300 feet, run after run, and the adrenaline rush of the G force and all that it takes is just hard to explain until you do it. And then the mud racing part, you're doing that while you're either going left, right, or once in a while you get to go straight, but you're always trying to go the wrong way.
Yeah, because the surface that you're running on is not necessarily consistent.
Right, it's very, very slick, depending on whether it was sandy or just mud.
Right. And what did you race? Just kind of locally, or did you race nationally?
No, I raced with back in the late '80s and into the '90s with USA, United Sports of America, and we went all over as well, California and South Carolina, and we did a lot of traveling to those races. But the thing about the mud racing is the runs are 2 to 3 seconds long, so you might drive 2,000 miles to make 2 3-second runs.
Wow. That's kind of like the old XRA days, except that you got a couple of minutes, and everybody used to say, well, we need more racing time. We need more racing time. Did you ever see any of that XRA stuff?
I saw it on the videos, but I didn't get to go to one.
Okay. And what is coming up for you guys? I mean, you got any special plans?
Yeah, this year Ford made us a smoking deal on a 21 Bronco. I believe it's a pre-production. We can't license it or anything like that, so we're making a 4600 class, which I'm sure everybody's seen the 3 that are already out there that are Ford sponsored and built. And we got a stock Bronco that's just right off the showroom floor with 500 miles on it, and we've started working on it, and we've got the portals for the front end, and we're working on working with Lauren Healy and the Fun Haver Off-Road to get a lot of the rest of the parts, because our contract says we're going to race that one at KOH 23, so we'll have the 2 vehicles there this coming 23.
Oh, really? And so that's going to be a 4600 car?
Yes, that's a 4600. So we'll have our 4500 that we have, and then the 4600 will be new.
And how are you going to drive both?
I'm not.
Okay.
The 4600, I believe John and Kevin and Andrew, my 3, John and Kevin are sons, and Andrew's son-in-law, and between the 3 of them, they'll figure out who's going to drive it and co-drive it, and we'll work it all out.
Okay, cool. And then you'll be still in the old car.
Yeah, I'll be in the 4500. My lifelong goal, I don't know that with the competition that's out there right now, my lifelong goal was to ever win KOH, but I give it my all, and I don't feel bad if I don't, but that's my goal.
That's a good goal to have.
It is.
So what was the difference in racing for those? Explain the difference in racing, like at Ultra 4 and Dirt Riot. I know there was a vast difference in how the courses were designed and that kind of stuff, but
there are, the Ultra 4, I just love KOH because of the diverse terrain that, you got the monster rocks and the huge trails, and then you've got the desert and all that. And I always liked the Dirt Riot because the races were a little bit shorter, just as brutal, but it's changed over the years. Of course, Dirt Riot doesn't do them anymore, but the family aspect of the Dirt Riot that's what kept us going, through the early KOH years. But the KOH is a whole different animal because of the size of it. But I think if you ask any of my family and crew, the funnest times we had were Dirt Riot.
I agree. At least from my part, of Dirt Riot, the whole goal when we started that was to give people a place to start racing and to hopefully teach them how to finish races.
It takes us a little while to give it your all, but leave a little bit on the table so you can finish.
Yes, yeah, and I got that when I started running Vora back in the Valley Off-Road Racing Association up in northern Nevada and California. We, one of the things there that I learned was that the guys that came out brand new to race, that had maybe seen it, decided to do it, buy a car, get it all cleaned up, they come out to race, and they were just, most of them, I wouldn't say panic stricken, but they were almost like they were, in over their head the first couple of races. And it was always interesting to watch how they learned to start relaxing and getting into the flow and being ready to race and then hopefully, completing races. Desert racing is a lot different than the rock racing. You can go 300 miles or 200, 400 miles, in an off-road car a lot easier than you can even do sometimes just 50 miles, or 3 laps in Moab.
Right.
It's just the terrain is so much more brutal.
It is. When we did those Dave Ultra 4 had a couple races there in Nevada that were 200, the 250, and 250 miles wasn't near as brutal as, especially as like KOH. KOH was every year. There's years that when I'm done at KOH that I sit in the car for 20 minutes, drink some sodas or waters and Gatorades, and just to try and calm down and be able to stand up.
Right, I get it.
There was one time, I know you'll remember, that we were, was it like, I can't remember, Vernal or somewhere, but we Kevin was driving and we lost the right front wheel and we came in reverse.
Yes.
The finish line. That was, we always wanted to finish.
And that really surprised me when you guys came in that way too. I mean, I remember Casey Curry, the first UTV race that was put on at KOH. I did that one, and it was like 2 years before they started doing them regularly, or maybe just the year before. But it was the first year, and he had lost all his forward gears, and he finished like the last, I don't know, I want to say 8 to 10 miles. It was all desert, in reverse. And
Yeah.
a UTV, that's much easier to do in.
To see, yeah.
Yeah. So, I give you guys credit for that.
We've always wanted to do whatever it took to finish, because then, if once you break, you're generally, if you break, you're not going to be on the podium, but in your own heart to be satisfy yourself just to be able to say you fixed it and finished. Right.
And the Dirt Riot, what I really liked about that was, it's most races, off-road races, whether it's rock racing or desert racing, you see everybody, you see all your friends maybe before the race, but you're still so busy on trying to get the car ready or to qualify and last minute checks and all that kind of stuff, because the racing is, that you're going out so far away from where you're at.
Yes.
And, you got to have pit crews out there, that kind of thing. And then with Dirt Riot, we intentionally made it laps. I remember Derek West after the first race, or before the first race, he goes, "Well, Rich, I really like point-to-point races." And I said, "Well, Derek, that's good, but those are not only is that hard to find property in the U.S. to do that, unless we're doing it all on BLM out, and even that a point-to-point is very difficult in the United States." But I said, it doesn't help people become better racers. And he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, first of all, if you're doing the same lap, same terrain multiple times, you start to feel like, okay, I know this part of the corner, this corner, this section, I can do this and I'm going to be faster."
Right.
And what that translates into after doing that a number of times at different locations is then all of a sudden you're at a place like KOH and you come across something and you go, okay, I see it in front of me. I know how to set up for this because I did it before somewhere else.
Right.
And it's that repetition.
And making the laps actually brought you, of course, it got you back towards your pits, but it also gave the spectators more visibility. They got to see you more time, because that's some of our issue, that a lot of the families don't like to go to some of the races because they'll see you and then you take off and you're gone, and in an hour you come back and you're done.
Yeah, exactly. And especially at the races. I mean, Dave has done a really good job of overcoming that at KOH with
Yes.
his live coverage. With everything that they have to overcome out there. I mean, he's gotten the right people to do the right things and figure it out.
Yeah.
But it's still not perfect, and if you're on the lake bed, it's really hard to watch that live coverage because everybody's on the lake bed and reception sucks.
Yes, yeah, but it has came a long ways from, for me anyway, 2011 when I went and watched, and then 2012 when I started competing. It's 100% better in the last few years.
Right, I agree. So you never thought about going slow and doing a rock crawling event?
I have, but it just hasn't intrigued me. This there's enough of these races, and it takes all my time as it is. So maybe when I actually slow down, then I can maybe try something like that.
Yeah, I was trying to talk Lauren into it as well.
Yeah,
and that didn't go well.
me and my family as a privateer group, we can only, we're going to have 2 racers this year, but the boys are paying for most of the other one. But I use it from what it costs to run a season at Ultra 4. I could never afford to build a rock crawler.
Right. I get it.
Yeah.
So then, with the 2 cars, you're going to campaign them both at Ultra 4, KOH and Ultra 4, all the events, or are you going to select events?
Well, we'll see how it goes. Where the events lay out and how things play out. But yeah, we're planning on KOH and at least 4 or 5. I think if we do just the West, there's 3 West plus the Visions middle race and then the Nationals at the end. So that would be 5 regional races and then KOH.
Right. That's a full schedule, 6 races.
It is. This year I did I did Crandon just a couple weeks ago, which was an East Coast race that wasn't part of our West, and then we did Tennessee because we just like racing, and I like seeing the competitors that we've met through the years. I just like the get together part of it.
So who do you like to mix it up with?
There's a number of them in our class right now. Dwayne Garrettson is one of the best, and Justin Hall, he won Crandon. He won it 2 years in a row. We got Rick Levezzo that runs with us, and Jesse Oliver, and then Cody. So there's a number of us here that are just neck and neck all the time and then we've got a few newcomers that are coming in here to take over the spots.
Cool. I noticed that when a lot of those names I know because, they started with us, Dwayne and Cody, and it's nice to see them come up. In fact, Dwayne rock crawled with us before he decided to go fast. And then Justin rock crawled with us, and then he decided to go fast and got into the racing as well. Out on the courses, do you guys like at KOH, going up through some of the rock canyons, how many times have you been in there where you're like wheel to wheel with guys?
It's all the time. Because someone will get hung up on a rock and you'll go around them. Some of them will have a flat or a breakdown or have to stop for a minute to get them a drink of water. So we pass each other over and over and over.
And is that fun? Is it more thrilling to do that than just be in an open air?
Yeah, it is. I really love to like you said, get in there and mix it up and get tire to tire, because when we were in Crandon the other day, my transfer case popped out going up the rock ledge, and I got hit in the tail, ripped the fender off, and it's when we're out on the course, we're competitors. When we're in the pits, we're friends and we help each other. But when we're out on the course, we wouldn't do anything to hurt anyone, but we would run over each other to get where we're going.
Right. Now, I remember those early years at KOH. There was a lot of people getting run over. I mean,
Yeah.
the cars, car over
Yeah.
car, or rolled
Right.
into, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that still happens, not to the extent it used to, but it does still happen.
So, explain to me the best race or the funnest race that you had at KOH. Do you remember what year it was, or where you just said, "Wow, that was one to remember"?
Well, the most memorable race, we'll call it that.
Okay.
I ran the scrambler at KOH 2 times, and I did finish both times. The one time was after time, but Dave gave it to me, and we weren't supposed to be out in the dark, and we had broke the steering box, and this was the second time. Broke the steering box and replaced it. And Kevin and I sat in that car. He got out a number of times to winch and things, but we sat in that car for almost 13 hours. I didn't get out at all for 13 hours. And to me, that's the most memorable, because of overcoming all the adversity that it took to make it. We came in the dark, and all it had was the 1982 original headlights, and only one of them worked, and we're coming into the finish line with only one headlight, and that's the most memorable. But I think we'll just say the most stressful one was 2 years ago. We lost reverse at about the 10-mile mark, and we finished within time. I think we finished, we were number 8, I think, that time. And every time we'd get hung up on a rock, which happened probably 100 or more times, Kevin had to get out and throw the winch under the car and find something behind us to pull us back. Wow. And I think by the time we got done, he was, I don't think he could have walked, stepped, or even breathed one more inch, because he was tired.
I would imagine having to get out and winch like that. And when you're down there and you're working on the car and you're trying to get ready, have you ever had that feeling like the night before the race that it isn't going to work? It's not going to happen?
Actually, I haven't. I keep the upbeat attitude that we're at the peak of our game, because KOH is the first race of the year, and we get a couple months to get prepped for it. And I haven't personally ever thought that we weren't going to do good. I've always thought this is my year.
Awesome. So out of those 9, the 9 that you finished, that means there's 2 that you didn't finish. What took you out during those races?
The 2 that we didn't finish, it was the first year that we raced the Willys truck, and we had shocks off and all that. We ended up rolling it at the top of Short Bus, got it back on its wheels, and then made it about another, 10 or 12 miles, not that far, and rolled it again, ripped the front end clear out of it and all the shocks off of it. And there was no fixing that one. And then the second time that we didn't finish, the right front link broke and ripped the shock and everything out of it. And I walked 2 miles to pit 2, and they put all the parts in a backpack, and I had a lower link, shock, oil, and hydraulic hoses for the steering, and all the parts in a backpack. And I walked back while Kevin was tearing the car apart to get it ready to put back together. And I walked back that 2 miles, and we got it put together, and we made it. I think we made about 3/4 of the race that year, but we did time out.
Well, that's understood, but that's a good hike, carrying all those parts.
Yeah. Yep.
And prediction this year. What do you think you'll do?
You know, it's like always. We're gonna. Well, we're we tore the Crandon is an amazing race course, but it tore us to pieces, and it did a lot of other people. I'm not sure. There was a lot of things happened there, but as far as mechanically, it tore us plumb to pieces. The front end's out getting straightened and rebraced. The transmissions down at the shop they're rebuilding the transmission because I had some things happen, and the engine was getting a little low on oil pressure, and we just took it out to look at it, and then the rear end is coming out just because we do it every race. So I think with all the new parts in it and everything, I'm hoping that my goal is to win it, and we're just going to do the best we can. And then the stock Bronco, that's going to be, I believe, watching the other ones go, that's going to be just a hoot.
Right. I know that there's some people that want to see the Broncos. I would guess it would be they don't want to see the Broncos at the top of the podium anymore.
Right. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people, jockeying for to knock the Broncos off the post.
And it's going to be tough because they've got some good backing. They've done their homework, and there's some good teams running them. They're excellent vehicles, and they're excellent teams, and we're hoping we can step up and of course although we're going to be running a Bronco, we're wanting to be in front of them. So, right.
The one thing that we have in our little Bronco, and it's the only one I think that's out there, is it's not the only one with the 4-cylinder EcoBoost, but I believe it is the only one with a standard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They run a stick. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, and we've talked about putting an automatic in it, but we're going to give it a shot with the stick and see if we can get a little bit of an advantage in certain places.
Right. It may be, I don't know. How strong are those? Are there manual transmissions?
Nobody really knows, because this transmission is, as far as I know, is only in this Bronco. You know what I mean? And there's more of them than one out there, but it's rated, if you go on the website about it from the transmission maker, it's rated at 400 horse, and that's what we're going to be putting in it.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. That's gonna be something to watch.
Yeah, it'll be a challenge in itself, but I think it'll be good fun.
Right. And one thing is that nobody will be able to steal it.
Yeah. There a lot of people won't be able to.
So, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to talk about? Anybody that you want to give a shout out to, or?
Well, if I was to thank someone, the biggest thing would be my wife and my kids, because she keeps me down to earth and keeps me fed, of course, but she keeps me in line and doesn't let me get too far south. And then my family, my boys, and then my son-in-law Drew, that does our body work and helps out with what races he can. And we've got my engine builder Chuck. He's my co-driver, my engine builder, Chuck Richardson. And then we get help from a number of people. I don't know that this is the place to say it, but we get Milestar sponsors us with tires, and
right.
Rough Stuff sponsors us with a good deal on parts, and it takes a lot of people to keep this ship afloat.
Yes, it does. And it's never a bad time to give a shout out to people that help you out, companies or individuals.
Right. Yeah.
So Shawn, I want to say thank you so much for agreeing to come on board and discuss your life and your racing career with us. And I really hope you do win this year. I really
No,
do, because you're one of the guys that I always cheer for.
that's my goal. One thing that I've tried to instill in my boys and the people that I'm around is um, sportsmanship is a big thing. Don't let anyone's comments get under your skin, or don't let anyone make you be a bad person. We always help anybody we can, and if they need a part and we have it, and all we ask for is to get it returned, a new one returned when they're done, and we just go out there to have fun, and we want to be a great team.
Yeah, and that's one thing I have to give you credit for is I've seen you do that for people, whether it's chasing down parts, providing the parts yourself, helping them get their stuff built and put back together in the pits or wherever. What you guys did for me, I never had time to work on my vehicle. I never had a place to work on it unless it was just the dirt. And then every time it came out of the trailer, I had a short period of time to get the racetrack ready.
Right, you had to use it.
Yeah, I had to use it. I didn't have time to spend, working on it. And you guys would show up and I'd look, I'd be going like, okay, where'd my Jeep go? And somebody go, oh, one of the Rants came and grabbed it, and you guys would shake it all down and make repairs and fix things that I didn't even know were wrong.
Right.
And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, we figured teamwork when you're out on the race course, unless someone's on fire, or something like that. We would usually go on by because we're running up front and trying to win, but once you're off the course or in the pits, yeah, it's all family.
Absolutely. Well, Shawn, thank you so much, and congratulations on getting the Bronco and having a second car in the stable. I'm really happy to hear that, and I really hope that the new car, the old 48 or 4500 car gets put back together well enough to get you at the top spot.
Yeah, we've got that one race left there in Oklahoma.
Oh, that's right.
This year. Yeah, we got one left, and then we move on to the teardown again for KO8.
Well, just make sure every nut and bolt is tight and marked, and you're ready to go.
We will.
All right. Shawn, thank you so much.
Well, thanks.
All right. You take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Good night.
Well, that's another episode of Conversations with Big Rich. I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you could do us a favor and leave us a review on any podcast service that you happen to be listening on, or send us an email or a text message or a Facebook message, and let me know any ideas that you have, or if there's anybody that you have that you think would be a great guest, please forward the contact information to me so that we can try to get them on. And always remember, live life to the fullest. Enjoying life is a must. Follow your dreams and live life with all the gusto you can. Thank you.